A few, the strong, the young, would work till they died. Some would die of exhaustion, some were beaten to death, some too weak to work another day were gassed in their turn. And prisoners had other uses, medical experiments. Some, their hearts broken, chose to die on the electrified wire. Outside that wire, SS men free to go home to their families at the end of the day's work.
And I remember when we passed 10,000 naked women in a frosty morning, already sorted out, you see, and put on the lorries. And they knew they were old prisoners already. And they knew that they are now going to the gas chamber. And they were quiet, and somehow people were accustomed to live with the moment, with the knowledge that the death will come. But when the motor started, you know, this noise, this created a panic between the women, and a terrible noise went up from those lorries, you see, the death cry of 1,000 young women, you know, who were already reduced to skeletons, and their futile attempts, which they knew by any logic that they can't succeed, to jump out from the lorries, which takes them to the gas chambers, which are only perhaps less than a mile away, and which were already stoked, and the fire was coming out from the chimneys. This means everything was prepared. You see, this was a moment when Moshe Zornshah, the rabbi's son, spoke to his God. God showed them your power. This is against you. And nothing happened. And then he said, there is no God.
We used to say, where is the whole world? Where is the United States? Where is Russia? Do they know what is happening here in the extermination camps at all?
Oh, there had, of course, been only too much evidence of persecution of the Jews before the war began in Hitlerite Germany. And then, as the war progressed, some horrifying reports began to come out. At first, it was very difficult naturally to assess their accuracy, and they were indeed so horrible that it's hard to believe they could be true.
Among the working prisoners, a resistance movement. They smuggled out photographs with a plea to the great powers for help.
The evidence was so extensive, one could hardly fail to give it credit. And we decided that one of the things we must do was to make a joint statement in each of our capitals at the same time, declaring what our information was and what this horror was that was being perpetrated, and also making plain our detestation of it, and our determination that those responsible for it should be punished when the war was over. And that we got agreement upon after some negotiation, and it was near the end of 1942 when I made this statement in the House of Commons, with I must say, a dramatic effect far exceeding anything that I'd expected. And the speaker, a very fine speaker, Alger Fitzroy, he got up and he said, it is for the House to rise if it so wishes to express its feelings, and the whole House got up. And I remember Lloyd George coming to me afterwards and saying, in all my years in Parliament, I've never seen anything like this. He was deeply impressed, and so was I. Well, that was something that we could do.
In April 1943, the Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto rose, led by young men and women who knew the truth about resettlement and determined to fight. They had pitifully few arms. They fought bravely. It took the Germans 33 days to crush the ghetto. The survivors were marched off to share the fate of those who had gone unresisting before them. Theresienstadt. The Nazi cover story, Resettlement in the East, was elaborately documented. This propaganda film, made in 1943, was designed to show the German public and the International Red Cross what conditions in the resettlement camps were really like. At the time this film was released, most of the people seen here were already dead in the gas chambers at Auschwitz. By 1944, the Germans were losing the war. The SS speeded up the rate of killing. The railway tracks now led straight to the gas chambers. And still the trains rolled in from Italy, from Greece, from Hungary.
They took us to crematoria 3 and 4. There we saw hell on this earth. Large piles of dead people, and people dragging these bodies to a long pit, about 30 meters in length and 10 meters in width. There was a huge fire there, made of trees. On the other side, fat was being taken out of this pit with a bucket. We immediately had to begin working. 4 people would take hold of one dead person. But the SS came and said, no, each one of you will take one. He showed us how, with a simple walking stick. One was to take the body under the chin, put the stick on the neck, and drag the body to the pit, like you would drag a rag or a piece of wood. At the edge of the pit there were still more people who pushed the dead into the pit. Some of our group threw themselves and jumped into the pit, alive. They apparently thought it better to be burned alive rather than work at such a job. There were only 4 or 5 SS men altogether. They were so well organized that there were just the 4 or 5 of them with us. But there were electric fences, and beyond this fence there were SS guards. Escape was impossible. After a week, they suddenly took me one night to crematorium 1. There the whole job was more mechanical. All around there were water installations as if for showers. Everyone crowded around these showers. They still didn't know. Some who did not dare to believe that they were going to be poisoned there. They would put about 2,000, 2,500 people in there. If there wasn't enough room, the small children would be thrown on top of the people's heads. There were invalids. They would take out their service cards showing that they had fought in the First World War, with all kinds of distinctions and medals which they had from that time. They shouted, "What's this? We fought for Germany and now they're going to burn us, to kill us. This is impossible. We protest against such a thing." But everyone just laughed at them. They didn't take it seriously, these SS men. They laughed at the whole thing.